Welcome to our QPR season review for 2024-2025. And it's perhaps been a bit of an unexpectedly up and down season for QPR, from being 5 points adrift at the bottom in November to getting ourselves to the cusp of the playoffs after a strong winter, only to go on another winless run to almost get ourselves embroiled at the bottom again. But we just about kept home out of it as we came home in 15th place, only for us to, of course, part ways with Marti Cifuentes in the final week of the season, with him on gardening leave as we speak. So we head into the summer in a bit of chaos off the pitch. We're going to try and cover anything and everything to do with QPR from 2024-25 shortly and look ahead to the future. But of course, Dave and I gave our reaction to the Marti Cifuentes situation on the final preview show of the season last week. So if we start with you, George, what's your reaction to everything going on with Marti Cifuentes?
Yeah, to be honest with you, mate, it's disappointing. It really is disappointing to see because I think not just for me, but for so many fans, Marty gave us a bit of hope at some points, and I really thought that he was the manager who was going to take us further than anywhere between 15th and 18th every championship season. But no, I just had kind of a feeling near the back end of the season that something was going on behind the scenes, whether it was, I don't know, trying to get comments in his interviews, the fact that not many people can speak to him off the pitch. And I think that maybe he just got a bit fed up with the injuries as well. But I just had a feeling that it wasn't going that great for him, like behind the scenes. I know that he hasn't stayed at a club for more than 2 years as well. So I thought that it was going to take a lot for him to stay longer. I know he signed a contract midway through the season, but um, yeah, for me personally, it's disappointing. I thought Marty was yeah, great manager. I liked his style of football. I thought that he really got QPR, he really got on well with the fans as well. So yeah, it's upsetting to see, but it's now about getting the appropriate suitor, isn't it, for him now? So it's disappointing, but we got to move on.
Yeah, Dave, we're saying we've got to move on, but is there any way back for him? Could they be growing up about it and reconcile?
I wouldn't have thought so at this point. I mean, if they hadn't have done the garden leave thing, I think there was always an opportunity they could sit down in the summer and either he stays or goes, they could work out that way. But once they put him on gardening leave, there's no way back really. I mean, even if the club went back and said, actually, we've changed our mind, we want you, is he going to want to come back? I don't know. I think that relationship's gone. And like George says, that they're going to have to move on and find someone else. You kind of assume they've got someone in mind. You know, they would if after they've done this. But yeah, hopefully they can bring someone in and we can be at least as good or if not better next season.
Yeah, I think at this time of year, maybe there is a chance they could reinstate him because of the fact that there's no matches. It kind of gets swept under the carpet a little bit. Not many people are paying as much attention through the summer, but seems unlikely, doesn't it? I still think that would be the best case scenario for QPR to kind of like forget the last week ever happened and all shake hands and move forward. But like I say, can't see it happening. And we'll come back to Marty and the job he's done shortly. But first, a quick word on the final day at Sunderland, Dave. It means we finished on the same points as last season, but 3 places higher. What was the vibe in the away end?
Yeah, it was quite strange. It was a bit of a party atmosphere, really. A bit like not as party like as Coventry last year, but there was a lot of inflatables, a lot of laughter. The team played really well on the day, so it made for a really positive atmosphere. There was a few chants about Cifuentes and being happy that he's gone, but they didn't last too long, to be honest. It was mostly just focusing on the team. It was a good atmosphere, and I thought they played well yesterday. Fully deserved to win the game. And it was a nice way to end the season after a bit of a dodgy week.
Yeah, as it, George, it sent us all into the summer just that little bit happier, hasn't it?
Yeah, I thought going into the Sunderland game that we weren't going to get anything, to be honest with you, especially after watching the dross of Burnley at home. But no, it definitely was a positive way of ending the year. I actually weren't there, but I thought that we played really well. I thought the goal was well built up. Sunderland didn't really cause us much of a threat. I know that we only had one shot on target throughout the whole game, but it didn't really seem like that. They didn't cause us any sort of threat, as I said. So yeah, good way to end the season. I know some of them were on a poor run of form, and I think they won't do well in the playoffs because you can't flick a switch with form in this division, I don't think. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's good way to end the season, but I weren't expecting much. So yeah, good to get the win.
Yeah, considering the way the week had gone beforehand, I was very impressed with the level of application from the team. Like you said, I agree. Actually, it did feel like we had more than one shot on target in the game. We certainly didn't need any more fuel on the fire, so it was nice to get a win. Like I say, put a few smiles on faces. I think it was the last day that we all needed. in terms of reviewing where we finished, there was a bit of a debate through April if we were already safe and things like that, and whether the 49 points we had after Oxford was enough. Well, it was. In the end, if we'd stuck on 49 points, our goal difference would have probably seen us safe. So ultimately, we were safe with 5 games left. And looking back at the season preview, Dave, you were the closest. You said we'd come 14th, so you were only one away. I went with 11th, so a little bit too high, but I think most of us predicted it was going to be mid-table, and 15th is kind of in that ballpark, isn't it? And if we go back to November, I think we'd have all been happy to finish 21st. So I don't think there can be too many complaints overall. But we're still a club where we have good runs followed by long winless runs. And Dave, I was going to ask because it feels like we still need to sort out what's going on at Loftus Road. It's been an issue for a few years now. It's just not the fortress it used to be, is it?
No, middle of the season we had great home form, which probably elevated us up the league a little bit and has made sure we stayed up. But the start of the season and the end, we just can't seem to win at home. We lose far too many games home. We're far too easy to beat at times at home. And I don't know if it's because we try and be a bit more expansive at home, try and play on the front foot a bit more, so we're getting caught off on the break. I'm not sure what it is, but it's something that needs to be addressed next year because your home form's so important. It needs to be better. And it's been like this. It's not just this season. It's been 3, 4, 5 years. We haven't probably since Warburton was there. The home form hasn't been very good.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like for QPR to ever have a good season, we're going to have to be good at home. It's always been the foundation of our successful seasons, hasn't it? We had that hot streak, like you say, in the new year, but we ranked 21st out of 24 at home, whereas away we actually ended up in the top 6. So there's something to build on. It's just got to sort out what's going on at Loftus Road. Wanted to mention XG as well, because a lot of people think that's nonsense, but for XG, for expected goals, we ranked 18th. Goals against, we were 14th, and we finished right around there. Our wage budget, we know, is bottom half. We've had 10 seasons at this level now, and our average finishing position is also 15th. Is there an element now, George, of fans having to adjust expectations? Is this kind of our place now?
I think coming into this season, the fans had some sort of expectations that they thought that we were going to do better, and rightfully so. I thought we carried good momentum into this season. That's why I think this year you could argue that we've made no progress because we finished on the same points. However, I think this year was much more disappointing than last. Um, but no, on your point about home form, you can see it in the division as well that teams like Portsmouth and Oxford, the only reason why they stayed up this season was because of good home form, I believe. So if you can build on that, and as you said, we got a top 6 away form. So I'm not sure whether that's because I feel like we set up completely different away from home than we do at home. I agree with what Dave said. We're much more expansive at home, whereas away we look for the 1-0s or the 1-alls or them sort of games. But no, yeah, back on your point of adjusting expectations. Listen, I think for a good few seasons now, fans just realise that we are a mid-table championship team and we can't really expect much more unless we go into seasons a bit differently. I think that recruitment needs to change, and I just feel that until these things do change and until we have a bit of stability where every single season it doesn't feel like a big rebuild, we're not going to make any sort of progress. So yeah, it's annoying. It is annoying because, especially coming into this season, I thought that maybe we could have had some sort of push. And it was on this season because it was the first season in a while where teams got in the playoffs below 70 points. So if we could have just had a half decent start to the season or not really dropped off, who knows what could have happened. But yeah, disappointing season in the end. And I feel that although we finished 3 places higher and on the same points, it's yeah worse than last season.
Yeah, when you look at it, it's actually only 4 results would have needed to go the other way for us, and we would have had enough points to be in the top 6. So it's still relatively fine margins, and we all dream of more, don't we? But football is increasingly becoming you finish where your budget is, and there is the odd exception to the rule. We have to hope we can become one of those exceptions to the rule, but a lot has to go right. You're right about the recruitment. That's going to have to be absolutely bang on for us to progress. And we'll probably analyse now in the rest of the show how we try and go about that. If we look at the squad, the out of contract players, let's address them first. We've got Steve Cook, Jimmy Dunn, Morgan Fox, Kenneth Powell, and Lucas Anderson out of contract. Jack Colback and Michael Frey, both out of contract too, but they've both got an option for a year. Who would you keep and expect to keep, George?
I think Steve Cook's staying, to be honest with you. I think after the social media post that he made after Sunderland and the rumours that came out that he signed a new deal, I think Steve Cook's staying. I'd love to keep Jimmy Dunn, to be honest with you. I would love to keep him, but I think that his heart's elsewhere. As much as he loves the club, you can't really blame him for it, wanting another challenge. I don't think he'll play Premier League football, but if he can get a move to a championship team that's a bit higher up, then that's good for him, and it's progression for his career. Um, and you said Colback and Frey, I'd like to see them stay for another year. And as you said, they've got another year in their contract. So that's good to see because I feel that although they're not exactly consistent in terms of fitness wise, they only give you 25 to 30 games a season. I feel like when they are in the squad, they're two good players to have, especially Colback. He just brings you that bit of championship experience, I feel. But apart from that, I wouldn't offer anyone else a new contract to do, to be honest with you. I think Anderson, he's at half the player that he was last season. Um, I think the injury at the start of the year killed him, and Morgan Fox, although he's just average to be honest with you, he looks like an average championship player, and you can see why he's never made it any further than the championship, and he's always got that little mistake in him. So I feel like yeah, it's another summer where it's another rebuild, and recruitment, as you said, needs to be bang on, and I feel like we need to get back up in positions equally and have it well balanced throughout the squad because I feel like this year we went into it where a bit top heavy in some positions and we're well undercooked in some. So fingers crossed we can get the recruitment better this season. But in terms of contracts, yeah, most of them I really wouldn't keep, and I'm expecting that.
Yeah, any different, Dave? And what about Kenneth Powell as well?
Yeah, I think Powell, they were trying to get rid of him last summer, so I think it's obvious they're going to release him, this season. He's been okay, Powell. I think he's dropped off a lot the second half of the season, but I'd probably agree to release him. Cook, I'd definitely try to keep. I think you need that experience to the back. Morrison's been very good, but it's good to have that experience with him. And I'd love Jimmy Dunn to stay. I don't know what we were doing offering him a longer deal last summer. I think you put up on Twitter the other day, James, all these stats for the season, and you see how much recruitment's done is data led these days. He's like top of so many things, Jimmy Dunn. Anyone trying on a free transfer this summer, the teams who miss out on promotion, the teams that are coming down, are surely going to be looking at him as a no-brainer on a free transfer. So I'll be surprised if he stays. But I mean, like, even yesterday, he did not stop trying. He was celebrating tackles. He was, giving everything he had in possibly his last game. I'd love to see it work out that he stays, but I just don't think he will.
Yeah, I know. Though, if you look at those stats that you're saying, the club should just be making him the highest earned player at the club. Literally, he
Mm.
deserves it. He does. I think Kenneth Powell's run his course at QPR, so I don't think there'll be too many objections to him going. Morgan Fox has too many off days, doesn't he? He's not consistent enough anymore. Jack Colback, he's got that year's option, but I don't know whether they're going to do it because he's on big money, we're led to believe. So you wonder whether the option means he has to stay on similar kind of money, whereas the club might be saying, well, you can stay, but on reduced terms. So they might be at loggerheads with that one. It's worth keeping if they can agree it on reduced terms. Obviously, I agree on Steve Cook and Michael Frey. I would keep them. What about the lone players, George, Saito, Ashby, Edwards, Yang? Would you be interested in having any of them back?
I think Saito's an interesting one. I feel like he's been probably one of our most creative players this season in terms of taking on people one on one. I feel like he's been our best. I thought that he started off the season a bit weak and looked a bit out of his depth, but as the season's gone on, he's looked better. And it was disappointing that he got his injury in the last few games because I would have liked to see him play his last few. But I feel like, especially if Marty leaves now, I don't see him signing. I think Yang, he's another one who got better. To be honest with you, when he joined initially, I weren't really sure what he gave you, but he played that game up front at home. I can't remember what one it was, but I think it might have been Bristol City at home, and I thought he
Yeah, I
did
think
really
he was.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he did well in that. Ashby, listen, I know he's done all right the last few games, but I think he's been very poor throughout the course of the season. I remember that FA Cup away game at Leicester. Not that I could see much throughout the course of the game. It's just I know that he cost us at least 2 goals that day. So he's been very poor. And Edwards, well, I'd love to keep him, to be honest with you. And if if the Player of the Season award was throughout the whole year, he 100% would be mine. But I can't give it to him because he's only been here for half a season. But he's been absolute Rolls Royce at the back, and Southampton have got a real player there. And if they're not starting him next season, then yeah, they're stupid. So I feel like he's just been brilliant. If there's any that way that we could bring him back, I would 100% do it.
Do you think there is any hope of keeping Ronnie Edwards, Dave?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd love to have him back. I agree with George. He's been fantastic, any this season. He looks so good, and it's so frustrating we didn't sign him when he was at Peterborough 2, 3 years ago. He played against us in the Championship and was really good, but he was like 18 years old, and we never made the move, and we've kind of waited too late to get him. I can't see him coming back. Surely Southampton are going to make him first choice, but you never know with these teams coming down. They like to spend a fair bit of money. They might look elsewhere. So there's always a small hope, but he's too good really, and he's going to go on to have he's like when Carl Walker come in on loan. You just look at him and go, oh my God, he's going to go to the top, and he looks quality.
Yeah, it feels like a pipe dream, doesn't it? If the money's there and Southampton are daft enough to sell, obviously he's worth the investment without a doubt. But I agree, it feels like he could play for England. He's that good, isn't he? He has all the attributes that modern teams seem to want. So yeah, fingers crossed we could keep him. Personally, for me, I'd keep Saito. Ashby's like turned it on the last month of the season, but if you look at the previous 8 months, no one would have wanted to keep him up to that point. So he's a tricky one. And Yang, we'll have to see whether there's any agreement that they had that he was already going to be here next season on loan. I'm sure we're all dreaming of better things next season, but where else does the squad overall need to improve for you, Dave?
Well, a lot of it depends on who's going to be leaving, but I think there is a lot of work to do in the squad. I think fullbacks, we're going to need, Powell and Dunn are likely to go, so I think we're going to need new fullbacks to come in. Probably more strength at centre half, because if everyone's fit, Clark Salter and Morrison, you'd think it'd be your first choice, but we can't keep Clark Salter fit, can we? So you probably need another one in there. I think it's attacking wise. I mean, we've been saying it for years that they need better options up front. I think Frey's done well this year. Colley's done well this year. We don't really know about Salah because just as he got going, he got injured, so we don't know if he's going to come good or not. But I do think they need more options. They need more goals up there, really. I just think having someone who can just score 10 to 15 goals could transform us. That'll make sure you stay out of the relegation trouble. I think having someone like that. So that's where I'll be looking at. I think there's a lot of work to do this summer. That they need to have a really good summer recruitment wise, and they've got to recruit a good manager as well. It's not easy.
No, definitely not. Where are you hoping for reinforcements, George?
I think anyone who watches me knows that I just think that we need a striker, to be honest with you. And I know it's tough to say because to get a striker who's going to score 10, 15 goals in the championship is tough. But I feel like we just need to somehow get that, whether that's a diamond in the rough somewhere or whether that's bringing in someone who's done it before. It's tough, but we need a goal scorer. I don't want to go into another season where we've got two or three strikers and two of them being unexperienced and no experience in the championship. So I really hope that isn't the case. Um, it's obvious we need new fullbacks with Powell and Dunn leaving, so hopefully we can. I wouldn't mind some people with championship experience with that. I know it's been talked about Darnell Furlong might be coming back to the club, so that's someone I'd definitely like to see come back. I feel like in terms of areas that we're strong in, the only one I feel like we don't need to reinforce in is midfield, especially if Colback stays as well. I think Colback, Varane, and Field with Morgan as well is a very good midfield, and in goal as well. Obviously, I think Nardi's done brilliant this season. I think he's been much an improvement on Begovic. So they're positions that we don't need to improve. But apart from that, it's a massive rebuild that's needed. As Dave said, they need to find an appropriate successor for manager. So yeah, it's really going to be an interesting one. And we've had the last few seasons saying, oh, it's going to be an interesting summer. It's going to be an interesting summer. But I feel like this might be the top of the lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think Darnell Furlong would be an excellent sign. I don't think you'd find many people say we don't want him in the bill. He knows the league inside out, doesn't he? I agree with you both, though. If we don't start scoring more or we don't have get that regular scorer, there's only so far we can ever progress. But you look at it, and no championship striker this season got 20 goals. So it's pie in the sky that you're likely to pluck one of them out. We've had 3 seasons in a row now with no QPR player even getting into double figures. So it's an Achilles heel for us. Next season, I'm interested to see Harvey Vale come in. Obviously, he's going to be a good addition in midfield as well, to add to the ones you just said. But fullbacks, I agree, absolutely key, especially if Dunn and Pal are going. We're going to need to bring in potentially 2 right backs, 2 left backs. Did he trust Larkesh? We need to add pace to the side. We mention that every week, don't we, Dave? Like, there's just no pace in the side. Don't scare teams enough. We need to add the depth up front. So I think the word for the squad is it's been unbalanced, isn't it? And hopefully they can resolve that. If we turn to some of the players who are out on loan, we just talk about 20-goal strikers. Well, Charlie Kellman was top scorer in League One in the end. Asked you a few times about him, Dave, but do you expect him to be given a chance, George?
I think he will be given a chance, yeah. And the way that the club are speaking about it in social medias, the way that there was an interview with Kelman, I think a month ago, where he said that he's expecting to come back. So I feel like he will be given a chance. From my perspective, I think if Orient go up and they make a bid for him, or any sort of club makes a bid for him, I'd sell him. To be honest with you, I feel like as a club, we're known for holding on for players that season too long, and I feel like if we get a bid for him, I'd definitely take it because when he was at the club before, I just didn't really think that he looked that great. And there's a big difference between League One and Championship. If you think about it, Connor Washington used to score goals in League One, and then he came to us, and look how great he was. So no, Kelman's a really interesting one. I could be completely wrong. He could come into the team next season and score the 10, 15 goals that we need. Because I've seen some of the clips of him, and I watched that game when he played against Man City in the Cup, and I thought he did really well in that. But yeah, it's a really interesting one, but I feel like if we got a bid for him, then I'll take it. But I'm fully expecting him to come back and
Yeah.
play. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. He's a bit of, and Macaulay Bond's another one, isn't it? Who we got who is good in the division below. There's no guarantee. I do agree though on the point of I think we should sell if we get a decent offer because there's no guarantee he's going to come in and hit the ground running with us. And someone else who's impressed out on loan is Murphy Cooper, young player of the season at Stevenage in League One. It's hard with him, isn't it, Dave? Because we've just seen Joe Walsh make one appearance on the final day of each of the last two seasons. Neither of them are going to be happy for much longer just sitting behind closed doors, are they?
No, and they've got some other good goalkeeping prospects as well there, so they were pretty stacked in that area. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one we try and cash in on this summer. He's had a good season. He only played a couple of games for us, but he looked okay when he did play for us, didn't he? Um, so yeah, I think they'll try and move him on in the summer, get some money for him.
Yeah, unless Nardi is sold, I can't see anything changing with the number one next season. So we might
Yeah.
have to cash in on one of them or both of them, depending on how they want their careers to go. Unless Nardi is sold or wants to return home. Maybe it's time to give them a chance, though, if he does go and not sign a different keeper, kind of like when we had Joe Lumley and Senny Dieng waiting to come in. In terms of transfers out, who do you think we're likely to have interest in, Dave?
It's a difficult one because I think we've done quite decent as a team this season, but not many individuals have stood out. You know, the likes of Chair hasn't had a great season. He's had a lot of injuries, so I don't think he'll be one getting a move. I can't see many of them really much interest in many of them, to be perfectly honest. Um, maybe someone like Madsen he's finished the season really well. Someone from abroad might come in for him, but it's going to be another summer where I struggle to see where we're going to make that big sale. Same as last year, you're kind of banking on SA going, aren't you? The way he's going in a minute, he's surely going to get that move this summer, and they get the money from that, which would be a big help. But I just look at the squad, Chair's the one, isn't he, that you'd think would go for big money, but I just because of the injuries and he hasn't had a great season, I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think Chair will go this summer. I mean, Jonathan Varane maybe looks a good asset, but I think teams are
Yeah,
going to want to give him another year maybe before they go in for him. Sam Field might get interested. He'd be an excellent buy for any team, basically, in this division, wouldn't he? Maybe look at someone like Birmingham. They've got money to spend coming into the league. He's a local lad for their perfect signing for a team like that. And I want to add into the mix Ryan Coley. George, we've had past rumours about him, clubs being interested in him. Would you sell if someone came calling for Ryan Coley in the summer?
yeah. This is another one. It's similar to the Kelman situation where I would sell if we got a half decent bid for him. To be honest with you, I think anything sort of what 5 million plus for him. I know it's just plucking numbers out of the air, but bear in mind his prospects and he hasn't looked out of his depth in the championship this season. But I would sell him if we got a decent bid, and I'd want some sort of sell-on clause as well because that's the way forward with transfers, as we know with Eze. In terms of other players who might be going, I don't think we have any, to be honest with you. I agree with Dave. I think it's another season where if you're a championship club looking in on us, we've got players who look good but are either too injury prone or haven't done it for long enough. I think you mentioned about Field. I just don't think that he's a player who'll end up getting sold for any sort of decent money. Like he won't get a high enough bid for the club to let him go. I think Chair's here to stay long term now. I don't see him ever leaving, to be honest with you, after him signing his new deal. And I agree with you. Varane's another one where I think he just needs another year. But if he has another season like he has done this season, then he's definitely one for next summer.
Yeah, my understanding is we won't have as much to spend unless Ebery has a sale. We know the club was in a better place with financial fair play last summer, but it was about a £9 million outlay. So this season it's going to be less. I agree, by the way, on Ryan Coley. I think we'd have to sell if the money comes in for him, and maybe have to hope for like a good sell-on fee for a future deal or something like that. In terms of transfers overall, I still think Marti Cifuentes being here would have lured players in. That's gone out the window. We don't look as attractive a club either, the way we've painted ourselves in the past week. So it's again that question of who's deciding on the players. Are the out of contract players want to stay? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Whilst for us, it's time to go back to Marti Cifuentes. How would you sum up the job that he did, Dave?
I think overall he's done a good job. I think the first year was unbelievable, really, from the position we were in when he took over to get us out of it. And some of the days we had that season, Leicester away, the Leeds home game, it was just brilliant, and it was just great. And George said before about that bringing that connection back with the fans. It had been a while since we had that with a manager, and he really brought that. This season's been a bit up and down, to be honest, and we didn't start well, like you said before, and then we was good in the middle, and then we dropped again. I think the injuries played a massive part in it for him. I don't think he was helped at all by that. You saw even at Sunderland yesterday, another couple of players going off with muscle injuries. Something they've got to sort out in the summer. And when you've got a small squad, you just can't deal with that. But I think overall he's done a good job. We've stayed up relatively comfortably again. You know, what he wasn't amazing. I don't think he's the best manager in the world, or he's irreplaceable. I think he's done a pretty decent job, and it's definitely a risk moving on from him for next season, because I think he pretty much guarantees you that he's going to keep you up. I say it's a risk next year. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we have to highlight again the fact that the hand he was dealt. I mean, his top scorer, Michael Frey, and his most creative player, Ilias Chair, only started 12 games together. And even one of them was yesterday, and Ilias Chair goes off. So his captain, Steve Cook, missed 15 games. Best defender at the club, people would say Jake Clark-Salter, only played 11 league games. The list goes on. Anything to add, George, on your thoughts on Cifuentes, and do you think where could he have done better?
I think the job he's done at the club's been remarkable, to be honest with you, especially last season, how he managed to keep us up. And even this year, I think, as you just said, with the injuries that we've had, with what's been going on behind the scenes, I think the fact that we've managed to stay in the division is quite a feat, to be honest with you. And you wonder if we didn't have that run of form midway through the season where we could have been. But no, I thought he did a really good job as manager. I wasn't expecting him to stay long term, as I said, because he'd only been at clubs for max 2 years. But as Dave said, he's not irreplaceable. But he was someone I really enjoyed having manager as manager of the club, and it'll be sad to see him go. And I just think that behind the scenes, that who knows who's making the signings at the club and who really knows what's going on, and we'll never know, to be honest with you, and we'll never know the real reason why Marty's left. You'll get rumours and you'll get articles about it, and he'll have his take on it, but we'll never know. But in terms of what we can focus on as fans is on the pitch, and I feel that he got us playing some entertaining style of football. I think at times we didn't really have a model in terms of how we played, and I felt that. But then he adapted. I feel like at the start of this season we tried playing perhaps a bit too expansive, and then we went back to solid at the back, and that was the catalyst for our improvements, I think. So you can tell that he's a really good manager because he's able to adapt to the players that he's got. So yeah, it'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah, my overriding feel of the last few days has been I always felt reassured of him as manager. He kind of like had an assurance about him. And he weren't overly worried about the future of the club. And I'm not sure what else he could have done overall. I mean, match to match, of course, team selection sometimes wrong, subs too late. But that's management, isn't it? Every manager gets criticised for those type of things. Last season, his job was to save us. He did it. This season, the quality of the squad he had available because of injuries, to come home where he did, where most of us probably expected, it's job done. Fair amount of comments on last week's video we had saying he should have attacked more, should have done better, etc. But I don't really see what anyone else could have done with the players he had available. We've got a good start in 11, as we all seem to agree. Beyond that, it's players who would not get into most other sides in the division. So maybe the club will prove us wrong. We can only sit here and judge as it looks today. But I still feel like QPR were better off with Marti Cifuentes in the dugout. And assuming there's no way back for him, we have to consider who's going to be next. What are your thoughts, George, on who may come?
I think I would personally like to see someone who's got a bit of English football experience, to be honest. I know that it worked with Marty in terms of the dates are approaching, that he'd been on our list for a while, and it was a risk, but it paid off. I feel like that the next minute manager that we need to bring in is someone who's managed in the Championship before, at least in English football before. I'd love to see someone like Gary O'Neill. To be honest with you, I feel like he'd be the perfect fit for us because obviously former player, and I thought that he did really well at Bournemouth and Wolves in the Premier League, but I think it'll be tough to get him. But no, as I said, I just like to get someone with a bit of English football experience and not as much of a risk because I feel like the next manager that comes in will not get as much time as Marty did. I feel like Marty's job was saved by the fans at that Stoke at home game this season. And I feel like it'll take a lot for the fans to back a manager as much as we did with Marty's that quickly. So yeah, I just like to see someone who's got a bit of experience and someone I can put a bit of trust in rather than going into another season completely into the unknown.
Who do you think Christian Nori's algorithm is going to throw at us, Dave?
I mean, it could be anyone, couldn't it? I agree with George. I'd like someone with experience of the league or of English football. Gary O'Neill would be great. I've completely forgotten his name, but the guy at Plymouth, I think he's decent. He's almost kept Plymouth up this year. I think he'd be a decent shout. But I mean, it could be anyone. I mean, they kind of Cifuentes come from nowhere, really, didn't they? I think they might do something similar. They seem to want to go down the head coach route with other people making the signings, which can work, but you need everyone on the same page. So whoever they bring in is going to need to know how it works from day one. They can't be saying one thing and then doing another, which is unfortunately what's happened before. And I do agree they have to hit the ground running next year. You know, you can just imagine if they have a bad start. This the songs are going to be coming back about Cifuentes, why didn't he stay, this sort of stuff. You know, we all want QPR to do well, so I just hope that they get this appointment right and we can make a decent start next year and move on.
Yeah, like we spoke about the other day, the knives are going to be out if it doesn't go well this appointment. I personally think it will be someone from a broader left field name because, like you just mentioned, Marti Cifuentes didn't appear high on any odds last time. It'll be whoever Noy's found on Google or smashed his spreadsheets and stuff. And I also read an article recently that in general in business, young bosses don't want to hire older people. So if the new boss is over 40, I'll be very surprised given how young Christian Nori is. And if we go off the pitch for a moment, we've got the Ben Williams in Dubai situation. Surely has to be the next thing after the manager that the club sort out.
Yeah, I mean that has to be it's a ridiculous situation, isn't it? You got someone your head of performance working part time in Dubai and part time for someone else. I mean, and when you see the number of injuries we've had this season, that's got to be addressed. And I mean, who knows how true it was? That was kind of one of the things that Cifuentes had an issue with, according to the article that came out the other week. And you can kind of see where he's coming from with that. That has to be sorted out. I heard on one of the podcasts recently, Clint Hill was on there, and he was almost laughing at the idea of it. He didn't actually believe it was true, and it's a ridiculous situation. They have to address that.
Yeah, even on the final day, we had Chair, Dembele, Colback with knocks and pulls. It's been
Yeah,
relentless all season. And there was an article last year, wasn't there, an interview with Jake Clot-Salter, and he was saying how good it was for him having personalised plans, someone working with him. So I'm not sure why they moved away from it. And they need to sort it out because it's just going to be a constant stick for people to beat the club with. So they need to come out and say, look, we've done this. It's sorted. This is going to be going forward. And it's going to come down, obviously, to Christian Nori to decide on that. And we know he's writing the theme tune, playing the theme tune, singing the theme tune. Does that structure need to change for you, George?
Yeah, I think it does. I think although he's got an impressive CV for someone his age, I feel like he hasn't really got like a full-on football background. I would like to see some sort of director of football or someone in the middle between the head coach and him. I feel like he's trying to do all of the off the pitch stuff, all the on the pitch stuff, and it'll get a bit too much for him. For anyone, it'll be really it's a really difficult job. So I feel like he kind of needs to loosen some of his responsibilities to other people. I feel like he's done some good things at the club in terms of some of the sponsorships and in terms of bringing in more revenue at the club. I know it's tough because obviously we lose 2 million a month, which is a ridiculous situation for any football team or any business really. But in terms of on the pitch, I feel like we just need someone in the middle between the head coach and him who can make some of them decisions. And yeah, because at the end of the day, he's young. He's going to make mistakes. So I just feel like we need someone in the middle.
Yeah, we had a lot of comments, Dave, on our last preview show saying that if Marty's going, Nori should go too. You rightly said you can't see them both going in the same summer,
yeah, no.
but should they do that? Should they consider someone between the head coach and Nori?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I mean, taking his age out of it, any, it doesn't matter what age you are, that is a massive job. He's doing everything at the club. That's a lot for one person. It's a ridiculous situation to be in. He definitely needs help. I thought when he came in, I didn't really understand why they didn't bring in another director of football like they had with Les Ferdinand. If you open that job up for applicants, you're going to get some decent people come in. They can work to what Nery's philosophy is and kind of work together. Completely agree. They need someone in the middle to work. For one person to do it all is just too much. I find the communication stuff quite frustrating with Nuri. Even Marty going on gardening leave. There was no explanation as to why. We kind of all guessed it is because of West Brom, but who knows? They haven't said what it is. It could be something else that we don't know about. Maybe he was about to quit or something. I don't know. But there's kind of no indication of what it is, and I just don't get him keeping us in the dark like that. But I should say, on the development squad side, he has brought some good players in, to the young, so that they've got to the final. There's some promising kids there now coming through, and that's what QPR have got to do. That's where we haven't been good enough for years on that side. We don't have enough coming through, and there's definitely been some positive steps on that side. So it's not all bad, but yeah, like Jordan, I think he just needs a bit of help.
Yeah, he has been quite proactive with some of the off the pitch stuff, some of the things around the stadium. But for me, I hate this cliche, though, but he needs a football person with him, doesn't he? We need that director of football reinstated. I mean, I saw Mark Warburton had just gone over to America in that kind of role, so that ship has sailed. But somebody like him, somebody who can go in there and just give him that little bit of advice if you want in, because like you say, he's too guarded and calculated in what he says and when he says it. So if they had someone in between, maybe they'd communicate more. In any walk of life, if you don't communicate, relationships are very hard. It makes it hard to trust somebody, and that's kind of what I think he's lost with the fans. As for the owners, Dave and I have spoken about it so often. George, it's almost embarrassing how little we see from them or hear from them. What's your view on the owners?
Yeah, I think as you just said, we never hear from them. To be honest with you, um, I don't know because we had the situation where we had an American guy coming up. Was it Richard Riley or something like
Yeah.
that? But then it got told recently that he's lost some of his shares in the club. So who knows what's going on in terms of who actually owns the club? And we just never hear from them. That's the reason why Batty has stepped down in the first place because there was so many complaints about him not actually being at the games. I know that he said at a fans forum that he watches some of them from his box and no one can see him. But in terms of owners, you just need them to sometimes be at the ground and just be that public figure and be seen there. But yeah, we never hear from them. And as you said, it's all through Nuri at the moment, on the pitch stuff and off the pitch stuff. So, and I agree with what Dave said as well. For anyone, it's an incredibly tough job what Nuri's doing. But in terms of the owners, it'd be nice to hear from them a bit more often rather than the occasional end of season post saying about how the club's done. But that's all we really get from them, to be honest. And even
Yeah,
then, that's a stretch.
yeah, I know. I know they pump money in, and we can't fault them for that, but just feel like they just need to get a little bit more involved to progress further. Dave, do we need fresh impetus? Do we need new owners?
I mean, I think you have to be careful what you wish for with new owners. You see with a lot of other clubs, new owners come in and things get a lot worse quickly. Reading are a prime example of it. But you know, I think like everyone at QP, I think the owners do some good things. Their heart's in the right place. They're all trying to do the right thing, but it keeps them to be making mistakes. And like George said, you just don't hear enough from them at the moment. What do they want? What is their vision for the club? Are they looking to expand the stadium, for instance, or move to a new stadium? And that's all gone quiet. We hear nothing about that anymore. We're just staying put. Where do they see us in the next couple of years? Are we going to try and push for promotion, or is this it? We're just going to finish 15th, and that's it. But that's not the answer you'd want to hear. But if that's it, at least we'd know where we stand. It's just a weird situation at the moment.
Yeah, I just feel like we need somebody who's not just financially invested, but invested with time and effort. I think it would make a big difference. I think if you look at Wrexham's owners, they're so integrated into the club and it does make a difference. I'm not saying we need to get to that level, but even one statement from our owners or them showing their face outside the stadium would be a big improvement at this stage. And we had lots of comments on our last show, Dave, saying that people wouldn't renew their season tickets if Marty left or if Nori's in charge. It was literally the most frequent comment. Fans saying they're not going to renew, they've lost faith or interest after so many years of QPR at this level. They're just sick of QPR, basically. It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's a shame. Hopefully, people still renew and still go next season. I think we're all a bit disappointed with what's happened. I think it's quite a sad end to Cifuentes' reign here. But I'll still be there next year. I'm sure we'll all still be there next year. The club will go on. It's we just I just really hope that they get it right this summer. And I get the anger and why people would say that, but whether they actually go through with it, not renew or not, that's another thing.
Yeah, definitely. It could just be quite reactionary, couldn't it? I think almost every 3 p.m. home game this season was a sellout, and hopefully it does continue because it's brilliant to be around, isn't it? It makes the club a better place. Everyone enjoys going to the games. And I know that quite a lot of the show has probably been a bit negative, but one thing that's going right off the pitch, and we have to praise it, is the development squad getting to the Premier League Cup final. They beat Burnley. Are we already seeing, George, the fruits of the new training ground?
Yeah, I feel that the training ground and a new approach that they've done with the development's got to be has been really good. I know that a few seasons ago, when Warburton was initially here, that they introduced the idea of a development squad similar to almost the Brentford B team, almost trying to mirror that. And I feel like it's done us wonders, to be honest with you, rather than us trying to develop players through our academy where they just got picked up at before they were 16 without any compensation, to now where we're picking up players who've just been dropped out of a Premier League club like a Kieran Morgan, someone like that. And it's a much better approach to go down, and you can see it with the success in the Premier League Cup now that we've got some real talent in there, and it's been a fair few seasons since I've said that. You look at the likes of Sutton, he's probably the one example who's actually come through our whole academy setup. Apart from that, everyone in there has been a Premier League dropout or signed from abroad or something like that. But it's definitely looking more positive for the development squad than it did a few seasons ago, because that was probably one of my biggest criticisms, that you saw clubs who had 16, 17-year-olds coming through. Whereas we were stuck with the same Shadipos or Kakais who are just on the bench. Whereas now we have some players who are quite exciting going forward.
Yeah, you were right before, Dave, when you highlighted that. That's probably the best thing Christian Noyer has done is he's really trying to sign players specifically for that development squad that can then take us forward, and it seems to be working. And they face Brentford at Loftus Road in the final, so definitely get down there if you can. And it just leaves us with our personal end of season awards. Who's your player of the season, Dave?
I'll probably go with Jimmy Dunn. I think he's probably been the outstanding one from this year. I think we could have struggled a lot without him. That middle part of the season when we did so well, he was a real star for us then. Scored goals, always a threat going forward. He's defended well. He has dropped off towards the end of the season, but I don't think anyone has been perfect throughout the whole season to get the award. So I'd probably go with Jimmy Dunn. But I'd also mention Varane as well. I think started slowly, and I thought he's got better and better as season gone on. And probably if the season was a few more weeks, he'd probably win it. He's been really good lately.
Any different, George?
No, I completely agree with him. I feel Jimmy Dunn's my player of the season. I think that he's perhaps our best attacking option, to be honest, throughout the whole season. He's been our most attacking threat, and in terms of defensively, he's good. And the fact that Marty managed to pick him out as a right back and started playing in there, he's just been an absolute revelation. And I agree with Dave in terms of Varane's done really well this year. I feel he started off the season looking like a deer in headlights, didn't look that great, but then after that red card away at Blackburn, he's just really kicked on. And as I said earlier on, if Edwards was here for a full season, he 100% would have been my pick. So, but I'd go Jimmy Dunn.
I agree with you on Ronnie Edwards. He would have been mine, but it didn't feel right to give it to him after he'd only been here for half the season. But Jimmy Dunn, yeah, he's just a standout, isn't he? His commitment, like you say, the fact that he was our biggest threat in both boxes, not even playing where he probably ever thought he would play, and he just gets on with the job. Captain the side at the end of the season. It's just going to be a real shame if he does end up going. Fingers crossed as we speak. We still got hope that he'll stay. What was your moment of the season, George?
Yeah, my best moment of the season, although it was at the start where things didn't look as great, was when we beat Luton away. Obviously, we beat them earlier on in the week, and then beating them twice in the week was just so funny. And walking away from the ground, I think that's probably was one of my favourite away games that I've ever been to. The limbs in the crowd and just the atmosphere was really good. So, although it was in the middle of a really poor period in terms of how we played, I thought it was yeah, my best moment of the season.
What about your best moment of the season, Dave?
I'd probably go to Derby game. I thought that was the night I thought we cracked it. We were so good that night. We won by 4, could have been more. And we're like, we're actually going to do something. We're going to make the playoffs. And then it all went downhill very quickly. But that just felt like a really good night. Other one I'd mention would be the Preston game, the away game recently, the last minute winner, which pretty much guaranteed we were going to stay up. That was an unbelievable moment with Anderson's goal there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 3-0 home win against Norwich. It was our first home win since April. It was like one of those dark winter matches, and I love the vibe of that. It meant we were 4 unbeaten. It was a superb atmosphere, such a monkey off our back off the time. And it actually made us believe we would probably be okay because at that time we were all still a bit panicky. Certainly didn't believe at that point that we'd end the season like this, but that was the moment of the season for me. On the other end of the scale, what was your worst moment of the season, Dave?
Well, there was a few. Probably was last week, the Burnley game. Just seeing how far away we were from them. You went into it thinking, oh, could we give them a game? And I mean, no, we couldn't was the answer. I mean, they won 5, it could have been 10. It was embarrassing how much better they were. And seeing the lap of honour at the end with people that are going to leave and just looking so downhearted, it was quite a sad way to end it. So, yeah, that was probably the worst moment.
What about you, George?
Yeah, I know that it's against a team that are really good, but I feel mine was Leeds away when we lost 2-0. We did absolutely nothing in that game, and I remember just walking up that massive hill next to Ellen Road after the game, almost in tears, to be honest with you, because I thought that was really it. I thought this was the season that we were going down. But it didn't. My other one was it didn't really seem a big moment at the time, but it was when we conceded last minute away at Coventry. And I feel like them 3 away games, Millwall, Portsmouth, and Coventry, are really the reason why we dropped off. And if we could have picked up some results in them, who knows what could have happened. But yeah, my big one was that Leeds away game because I just remember feeling so depressed after. So
Yeah, that Coventry one's a good call actually, because it was probably the end of any hope we had of maybe achieving anything else this season. And with you that week where we lost 4-1 to Middlesbrough and 2-0 to Leeds as a collective, that was the worst moment of the season because you just thought the club was like in crisis. And maybe it is again now, but at that point it felt pretty low, didn't it? And it felt like a long road back. But thankfully we achieved it. What was your goal of the season, George?
yeah, I think mine's Anderson away at Preston. I'm. It's such a shame that I weren't there live to witness it, but I feel like it's such a good strike, and for him, who's had a poor season from him, yeah, it was a brilliant strike and a great goal, and it's just a shame that it weren't in the awards, to be honest with you, because it was so late on in the season. So, yeah, that's mine.
Is yours the same, Dave?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable goal. As soon as he got the ball, I was screaming, "Oh, don't shoot, just pass it!" And then it was in the top corner. That was a brilliant goal. Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, me too. It's the context sometimes as well as the strike, isn't it? So for it to be a last minute winner away from home when you've been behind 1-0 down and then you're winning the game, yeah, that was definitely for me. I liked Sellers' chip away at Cardiff too, again because of the moment it created. We hadn't won for so long and he dinked it in the last minute. But yeah, for an actual goal, the knuckleball from 25 yards is hard to beat, isn't it? And that's it. All I would say is we were sat here last May and we couldn't wait for next season. And by November, we were bottom. We didn't win again, like I just said, until December at home. So, whilst heading into this summer, it's a different mood. Let's remember this is QPR. Nothing ever seems to go as we expect. So, let's just see what happens. We hope you've enjoyed the review. And of course, comment with your summaries of the season below. I'm sure we've omitted some things as usual. QPR, there's just so much to analyse. The three of us will be back in the next week or so with our annual player ratings podcast in 2 parts. So watch out for them. And we'll also do a show as the manager situation evolves. In the meantime, thank you as always for watching and come on, you R's.